What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet, because she'll tear her head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
Tell us about you and kind of walk us down through your experience of how you started as a coach and, you know, kind of where you're at today, you know, because you're doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long journey. Throughout my whole life, I've always been an athlete. If you guys are watching the video version of this, my dad is actually here. He is the original Coach Pepper. So I'm the second Coach Pepper in the family.
Shout out to Dad.
He's always, shout out to Dad. He's over here helping out. We've been going on 2 runs a day on vacation over here. So always grew up with sports. I did gymnastics my whole life, cheerleading, 17 years doing that. I actually started coaching from a pretty young age. I had been in the coaching space since about 15 or 16 years old. At that time, coaching young gymnasts, and just learning that from a young age, how fulfilling it was to help others. That really kind of got me started along that coaching path. Took a little bit of a diversion. I went to business school. So I thought, I'm not really sure what I want to do. Everything's a business. Let me go to business school and figure it out. I knew I loved fitness. I knew I loved business. And I actually landed my dream job, like right out of college. I was doing marketing for Reebok headquarters. Super cool, helping people, getting product on people to get them fitted, getting them ready for their workouts. Eventually, Reebok moved me down here to South Florida to cover marketing for the entire region. It was great, and that was actually how I met a lot of, fitness instructors. I think I actually had met Josh, I'm sure, at an event during that time. I was posting workouts, things like that, and I was just really drawn to the South Florida community. I feel like the fitness down here, you don't see a lot of like competition. It's a lot more collaboration, which I think is really cool. So just being in that space really inspired me to, get more into the personal training. I had gotten my first fitness certification back in 2015, was more in the CrossFit space, then ended up going into NASM and then, continuing ed from there. Started doing some training on the side, and then ended up leaving that job at Reebok and going full force with the personal training. And I started working at a high-end gym down here in South Beach. And since then have moved on to having my own business, both online as well as a little bit in person.
So how's that been for you, making that transition from, working at a facility to really, and getting clients from that? That's obviously where, you and I got relatively close, right? I was a group fitness instructor there. You were a trainer and group fitness. And how has that transition been for you? And what really made you want to make that jump to like go out on your own and really, help people online?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had actually opened my business. I got my LLC December of 2019. So I was kind of maxing out my schedule at the gym, loved all my clients, really loved what I was doing. But I also kind of felt that burnout of those, 12-hour days, you're on your feet, you only have so many clients, and you're kind of tied to that one physical location. So I kind of thought, okay, I've been seeing some people like dive into this online thing, like, let me try it. So got an LLC, did all the stuff. I had, as of January 2020, I had 2 clients, and I was like super pumped. I had pretty much just like posted like, hey, I'm doing online training, and it worked at first, right? So I had a couple people that had been following me. Great, we want to train. Didn't really dive too much into it. It was kind of more of a side hustle thing. And then March 17th, 2020, gym shuts down, and you're like, okay, well, now we really got to make this work. So that I was like, learn how to swim, get thrown in the deep end type of stuff. So that's really how I took that big leap originally, even though I kind of was already like feeling that, that initiative. And then since then, that kind of really put some fuel on the fire there. But in terms of like the why and the motivation behind it is, I honestly feel, and not only feel, I actually have the results, I have the data that like, I'm able to help infinitely more people in this online space. And it goes so much more beyond that hour of training. So what I was finding when I was training people in person, they show up, they train an hour, you talk a little bit about nutrition, you talk a little about their family and this and that, and then they go on their way for those other 23 hours. What I find that's one of the most beneficial things about the online training is I'm actually able to support them more in terms of their resources, in terms of their, nutrition. How are they sleeping? What other aspects of their life are we really looking at? Because you guys know, fitness is so much more holistic than just that hour or 45 minutes of movement. So really what did it for me is the impact I'm able to provide, as well as so many more people I'm able to help. And they're also able to be a little bit more self-sufficient in taking the workout instructions, taking those videos and giving them, empowering them with the tools to take action on their own. So
Nikki, there's something that stuck out there that you said, and that was creating more impact for your client online. What has been the tools, I would say the tools that you've been using online that you feel are driving more impact? Maybe there could be softwares, it could be certain strategies you've created that have helped your client achieve the goals they're achieving at a much higher level versus the in-person. What are some of those tools look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so many different things. I'll kind of start a little bit more on the tech side, and then I'll dive more into kind of like the coaching side of things. So in terms of the tech side, the platform that I use for majority of my coaching is TrueCoach. I've tried a few of them. I really like the way they have it laid out. It's very user-friendly. It's very easy from a coaching standpoint. And I ask my clients, is this easy for you guys to use? How is your experience? Are there any glitches or anything like that? And that being said, the second most important thing to that question is getting client feedback. So getting, real people, real clients, what's working for you, what's not working, and just continuing to ask questions and keep their best interests in mind. My program today, 6 months ago, completely different. A year ago, so different, and just so many more avenues of support for them. And all of those improvements I've made has come from asking, for their feedback. So typical questions I ask them, what has been the most helpful for you? If there's something to add to this program, what do you think that would be to help you? I have them kind of rate, their satisfaction levels about every 4 weeks to make sure that, people aren't falling off. So really having that connection with clients and getting their feedback, because at the end of the day, we're here, to serve them. From a coaching standpoint, whether it be workouts, resources, nutrition, everything like that, I would say providing information that is not only relevant, but showing your clients, how to use those resources. Anyone can send out a PDF and say, check this out. But the main thing in recent months that I've added is actually one-on-one coaching calls. And in these calls, we're really talking about their obstacles and their challenges. So usually 15 minutes every 2 weeks, I'll check in with the clients in my group program, what's coming up for you. How did you implement this thing that we talked about last time? How's that working? Is it not working? Great. Let's come up with a game plan and move from there. And I would say the main thing that separates, just following here's a 12-week program and you don't have that coach versus having that coach is, things in life are going to come up and it's not going to be, this A to Z clean cut thing. It's going to be more like this. So really having that one-on-one coaching access has been the biggest differentiator, I think, for my clients as they've, given me that feedback.
Other than the one-on-one coaching, what surprised you from getting that feedback from your clients as some of the major resources that they felt like they really needed from you, other than one-on-one coaching?
Yeah, I would say, especially for, your audience of coaches that are listening to this, is I think a lot of times coaches will kind of try to impress other coaches. And it's your coaches are here, but your clients are here in their understanding of things. So really kind of taking it back to, where were you at the beginning of your fitness journey, and things that might seem obvious and seem simple to you, those super easy hacks, is going to change your client's life. So, little things add some egg whites to your smoothie, or, plan your meals in advance, take your Tupperware with you, lay your workout clothes out, all the little easy tips are really the things that make the biggest difference. So I always try to put myself back in, when I was first starting working out, like what are the things that I had a hard time with? So really kind of making it simple and not trying to like use these fancy terms, like your lats are doing this, it's like squeeze your shoulder blades back, like pull your shoulders down. Just keeping it on that client level and kind of like checking your ego at the door. Also in terms of the content you're putting out as well, whether it's, for future clients, for, your general audience, or for your clients that have invested in you.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you bring up the egg yolk and the protein shake thing, because, something that I've really found is pretty difficult, especially with my nutrition clients, is like getting them to eat more vegetables, right? Like finding time in the day to get more vegetables. And I always tell them, like, just put in, 2 giant handfuls of spinach into your smoothies. Oh, but it's going to taste like grass. I'm like, you're not even going to taste it, I promise. And like the next day they're like, bro,
it was the best.
You're right. You can't even taste it. Like, it's so good. Like, why didn't I think about this before? I'm like, well, that's why I'm here, like.
Exactly. I love it. Yeah. So I would say always the simple tips, and kind of talking about the nutrition. I would say, majority of the people that are taking my workouts, following along, whether I have live classes, I have pre-recorded things, the workouts, they tend to enjoy them, and they tend to like get into that routine. Where people really tend to fall off is honestly the nutrition. And that is definitely the hardest thing. Like, 99 out of 100 times people are coming to me more for that nutrition. Of course, the workouts are supplementing that. But nutrition is what most of my clients have the hardest time with. So
Nikki, for you yourself as a coach, what do you feel is the most challenging thing on your part when it comes to the online? Like, and what is something you wish can be there already for us online as coaches to be able to help us coach better?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a couple things I can think of. I would say as you're starting to scale, so I'm in a point where I have a good amount of, people in my program, and it's like, how do I make sure that, everyone's taken care of and I'm not letting anyone fall through the cracks? So one of the systems that I'm working on implementing is kind of like a client, almost not I don't want to say progress tracker, but like, are they good? Are they following it? Did they, fall off? Are they like, I haven't heard from them in 3 weeks? Are they like, send pigeon, send an SOS? So like really keeping tabs on your clients, because as you know, it's so much harder to acquire a client than to save one, right? Like they've already trusted you, maybe they're going through a rough patch. And a lot of times if someone starts to fall off, like they feel embarrassed, like they're like embarrassed to reach out for you for help. Like they 100%. Feel guilty that, I missed two weeks of workouts and I'm, Nikki's gonna be disappointed or whatnot. So really finding a system to make sure that no one falls through the cracks. They sign up for you as your coach. And of course there's a fine line between, they have to take their own accountability, but you as the coach kind of have to lead them and, pull them back in. So I have a little system that kind of has people in the green, like they're crushing it, which True Coach helps with, the percentages of their workouts completed. It's a good way to kind of quantify it. People in the yellow, maybe you're like, I'm not sure. And then people in the red, I'm texting them every day. I'm like, are you okay? If you got COVID, I'm like, are you good? Like, you still up? So just making sure that everyone's kept tabs on. I would say that's one of the most challenging things from a coaching standpoint as you start to, scale.
Well, and I think those check-ins are so powerful too, right? Like I've had so many clients tell me like, oh, like I was thinking like, I didn't need to log into the app as much. Like I don't need to track my portion sizes. And then I come into these calls and I'm like, oh shit, I really need to do it. Like Josh is gonna, like you said, like Josh is gonna be on my ass about it if I'm not really, check. Because the first thing I'm like, well, I didn't see you check in Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Like what's going on here? And they're like, well, I felt like I didn't need to do it. And I was like, okay. And do you feel like you're still making the same type of progress that you were making when you were checking in? Well, to be honest, no. I'm like, okay, well then do you think that you need to start checking in daily again, right? Like make sure you're adding your portion sizes, make sure you're saying you completed the workouts on True Coach. Yeah. Because when I do that, like then I can see it too. I'm like, exactly. That's why, we're headed down this path.
Absolutely. And I'll show you, I even practice what I preach. I have this is my little journal. These are my daily little rituals, and you can't see, but I got check marks. Anyways, there's check marks if I did it, if I didn't. So I even hold myself accountable, and I'll see if I see a lot of X's, I'm like, oh, Nikki, you got to get back on it. And I thought of a kind of follow up to, what's the hardest thing for coaches? And I know a lot of your clients on the business side come into this. So how do you handle objections from people? Whether that be, it's expensive. Now's not a good time. I'm really busy. All those things someone reaches out for help and kind of coaching them through those objections, because you can help them, and finding out if it's a real objection or if they're continuing to get in their own way. So I'd actually love to hear your guys' insights from business side. Like, how do you handle those types of objections? Like, it's expensive. How do you convince someone the value of investing in themselves and in their health, and what's at stake, what's at cost if they don't?
This is your wheelhouse, my friend.
Yeah, this is your wheelhouse. And 100%, the first thing I tell people, my coaches all the time, is you can't coach anybody unless you coach them through a call first. And in order to do that, it all starts with, can you build enough trust through that call and throughout building that rapport? And I feel like a lot of times we are going to get more objections. Regardless, most of the times you're always going to get an objection, but the ones that get a lot of objections is because there's not enough trust being built at the beginning. We probably didn't discover their true pain point and problem. On top of that, we probably didn't sprinkle back enough doubts to make them realize why they need you in the first place to help them get over to the other side to the results. So
I found that being a big thing for me. It's like getting them to understand, like, you're on kind of, muddy water here.
100%. And then when it comes to the actual objections, it's like I tell people, there's so many different questions you can ask. So it's really about like feeling out the type of person, first of all. Somebody who might be a little bit more aggressive, somebody who's a little bit more like, like, oh man, you got to really hold them by the hand. Like they're a little bit more nervous, right? To give them, could be the same objection, could be a money thing, but the way you respond to them would be a little bit more different than somebody else with a different question that can still solve that objection based on the person. So it really depends. But I'll give you an example. When it comes to the money objection, you can easily, if somebody says expensive, right? Somebody says expensive, you can ask them straight up, like, why do you think it's expensive? And let them answer that question and see why they feel that it's expensive, right? And then from there, obviously, you can keep digging through. And a lot of times too, like, if they think it's expensive, I might tell them, well, besides it being expensive or you feeling that it's expensive, there's anything else that's holding you back from starting? And if they say no, then I can work my way through. And I said, okay, so let's pretend that you had, let's say it's $3,000. Let's pretend that you have $3,000 right now in your bank account accessible. Would you go all in with me? 100%. Awesome. So let's do this. Would you be open to letting me help you figure out a game plan to get you started today? And if they say yes, then simply tell them, awesome. This is what I need from you. What do you have accessible right now from your checking, your savings, and your credit line? And now you need to coach them through their finances. Most people don't even know what they have in their own finances. Some people don't even know. I've had people on the call, they're like, I didn't even know I had this much on my credit line. Or I've talked to people and they're like, oh, I didn't even know I could have gotten a credit extension. Right? So many things that people don't even know themselves that you have to coach them first through before even coach them on what their actual problem is. So what I tell coaches is sometimes, yes, we might get excited. We want to coach them already what their issue is, but that's not the first issue you got to deal with. The first issue you got to deal with is isolating the true issue and figuring out what that is first, and then working through that, and then going to the other side. But one of my favorite one is the relationship one, right? So the relationship one is that one gets thrown all the time. The biggest. I gotta ask my husband.
Yeah, I can imagine how many times you get that.
I'm like, bring him on the call.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So, let's chat.
And the biggest, easiest way to do this, and I tell people all the time, is in order to prevent the relationship objection at the end of a call is by figuring out first who the decision maker is during the call. Early in the call. And if you can 100%. Figure that out, it's going to save you a whole lot down the road. And the reason why is because when you figure out who the decision maker is early in the call, you can now either invite them to come on the call, or have that call rescheduled for later that day when you have both of them. Because the problem is if you pitch the price to the person that's not the decision maker, that person will either go back to them, tell them, they're going to say, hell no. Why? Because they don't value their results as much as they do. And they haven't even met you, the coach. So they don't even know who you are. So you need to speak to the decision maker. So it's better to just hold off and tell them, hey, I noticed you mentioned a few times your, let's say, husband, right? I noticed you mentioned your husband a few times over the call. I can tell your husband is somebody who's very important to you. Is he somebody that's very supportive when it comes to things like this, when it comes to making a big decision on your life, especially on your health? Oh, yes, 100%. Awesome. So when it comes to making decisions like this, do you usually do them on your own or with your husband? Oh, I usually do these things with my husband, even as well with him. Okay, totally understand. I think that's amazing. I think it's great when two couples come together and make decisions like this together. So with that being said, I think it'd be very important for your husband to be on this call because he is part of the decision-making process. And I think it's only fair for him to be on here with you too. How's that sound? Oh, that'd be amazing. Is he available right now? And I've had people, yeah, let me go get him. Or no, he might not be available until later when he comes back from work. Okay, no problem. What time would that be? Oh, it would be this time. Okay, can we reschedule for this time? Oh, yeah. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So I want to chat with you and your husband then. Boom. But now you get the decision maker in front of you, and now you know who you need to speak to directly. That's the person you got to get the point across. And then from there, it's just much easier. Now you don't have to wait till the end of the call and be like, well, can we try to get your husband on? Or like, hey, let's get your husband on later. Once you already pitched them the price, now it just becomes a little harder. But if you can figure that out now and early on, you can now prevent yourself from not losing that opportunity because you haven't even told them the price. So they're still curious. They're like, well, I still want to know what it costs. Like, I still want to know deeper, like how they're going to help me. So they're curious. We're creatures of curiosity. So we're going to still want to be able to find out more information. And to me, that's probably one of the most important ones I feel like a lot of coaches deal with is the relationship one.
Well, and you brought up a good point even before that, right? It's like building that trust, building the trust on the call and getting them to believe in what you're able to bring into their life, right? I feel like too many coaches are like, oh, well, I have like this 12-week workout program for you 100%. And you're going to be using dumbbells, and they don't give a shit about any of that. Nope. You know what I mean? They'll buy what they need to buy. If they're going to buy your $3,000 program, they can buy $200 worth of kettlebells. Like that's usually not the issue, right?
100%.
But you tell them that they're going to be doing all this stuff, but you don't tell them like what that's actually going to mean for their life overall, right? Like, I'm going to give you more freedom of time so that you can go hang out with your kids. You're going to have more energy so that it's easier for you to go to the park and be able to play with your kids. Your kids are going to be able to join in on the activities that you're doing within the program so that they can later become healthier because they're going to parrot everything that you do, And as long as you can kind of really show them where exactly they're going to end up at the end of your program, right? And what the benefits are going to be. Most of the time, I feel like they're usually willing to do whatever it takes, whatever the money is.
It really is trust. It's trust, and it's also you being confident in yourself when you ask those questions, and when you pitch your program, you saying it confidently. Like if you strongly believe in what you have to offer, it's very, very important. And then at the end of the day, throughout the report building, it's do less talking and listen more.
Yeah.
Just do less talking and listen more.
I always set a timer on my watch every time I'm going to talk. And if it's over 25 seconds, I'm like, oh, shut up.
I love that. All those points are incredible. So good.
What about for yourself? Yeah,
I mean, those definitely come up. For me, it's usually, since I'm working with a little bit more, the boss babe, she's kind of around my age, like late 20s to maybe like early 40s. Usually that young, business professional, that go-getter. So for me, it usually comes down to I'm super busy. Like I'm so busy at work. I'm not going to have time. I'm like, great. Well, we're going to teach you how to have time. We're going to teach you how to manage your schedule. We're going to teach you how to modify your workouts when you're short on time. And then usually the price objection comes up, and it always dials down to those things, whether I've not built enough trust, if this person is maybe new to my page, they don't know me that well. And I love that you mentioned, the benefits of, the more energy, X, Y, and Z. I also like to kind of flip that, what's the cost of not doing it?
100%.
What's the cost of like staying where you're at,
Love that.
Physical standpoint, like you only have one body, like we're not getting any younger, you've had this extra 15 pounds on you, and still hasn't gone away. It's not going to go away by itself. Mentally, how is that affecting, how you feel about yourself? How is that affecting your job performance? Like you're not showing up confidently. For the women that I coach, I'm like, they are, executives, and they need to like feel like they embody that, 100%. That powerful woman. And if they're like fiddling with their, their skirt and like before they're like hopping on their meeting, like that's going to affect your work performance, financially, the healthcare costs, socially is a big one for us ladies. So beach season coming up, and I can tell you, I've never been, the girl who's just like skinny, whatever. Like I have had to like work.
I've been seeing your content lately. You've been looking good though.
Keep
Nikki.
it up. Keep it
thank
up.
you. Yeah. I've had to definitely work a lot of ups and downs throughout my journey, and even since, high school. But, there's been times where I won't go to the beach. I won't go out in that boat because I don't want to wear that bikini. Like I'm just going to make up an excuse and stay home. And like for all the time we've missed out on social outings, and now we have the chance to like get back out there, like what's that cost? So I like to flip that, kind of flip that. I show both sides, the positive and, the opportunity cost as well.
You got to sprinkle it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you help people shift that mindset, right? From going from, almost like a scarcity mindset where they're like, oh, well, people are going to be thinking about this about me or that, to like, nah, I can fucking own it. If I put in the work, I'm going to get the results I want. And
I'm a boss babe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I do a lot of future pacing and kind of like visualization. So kind of after my next follow-up question to that, and this would be, I guess, in the initial call, and then throughout the course of coaching, you build that trust and they start to see those little changes. So, but starting with that, like initial, consultation or sales call, whatever you want to call it. After I ask those initial like questions, the next question I ask is, imagine yourself, we've been working together for 6 months, you're crushing your goals, like you're loving your body, you're living life. Like, what does that look like for you? And some people, like, it's hard for them to even answer because they've been stuck for so long, they can't even like picture it. So that's really that initial, like, okay, what would that look like for me in 6 months? Like, what do I want my life to be like? So that just initial shift, and it's a very gradual process. I will say I've had one client who actually, she started with me for my New Year's program. And the way I launch my program is typically every 13 weeks, about 4 launches a quarter. I have like an on-rolling enrollment, but typically 4, big launches a year. She started on New Year's, and then she re-signed up for the spring edition. And honestly, after her first 12 weeks, she did not see a lot of, physical appearance changes, but she's like, I feel stronger. I'm loving the workouts. I really feel better. Like, I really trust you as a coach. Re-sign for the next rendition of it. And now we've been taking these progress pictures, which she hates doing. I'm like, you're going to thank me later, and we're going to be able to see these changes. And, about the last month, we really saw like everything just kind of clicked. And she's like, Nikki, you're so right. Like, look at these pictures. I was like, I know. So it really just takes that time to have all these things kind of take effect. It always goes back to building that trust. And I always say, I like to under promise and then, over deliver.
Yeah. And I always say too, it's always important to let, really highlight on the call, also letting them know, hey, I'm going to be real with you. This is not going to be this thing where you think it's going to be the easiest walk in the park. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be work to be put in. So I just want you to know this from the beginning, because the most important thing to do is also let people know what they're going to go into. So that way, when they get into the program, it's like, well, I didn't expect this, or I didn't think this was going to be like this, or I was expecting it to be done for me. So I think it's also important that, like you said, you also you also don't want to go over the top. You also want to let them know, hey, don't also think this is going to be the easiest walk in the park. You want to really identify what it is, whatever it is your program is or your service. You really want to identify what it truly is going to be and what it truly takes, so you avoid all those issues. And also, their commitment level. You actually know how serious they are. You can really tell somebody if they're serious or not. And it is super important, because you don't also want to work with a person that's going to half-ass it, and then it looks bad on you because they're half-assing it and you brought them in just to bring them in. No, because I've stopped people on the call. Hey, honestly, to me, this looks like it's not that serious for you. And I probably don't think this is the best time for you to jump into something like this.
Yeah, I love that point. And that can go, two ways. I think setting expectations, avoid so much, misconception, miscommunication. When your expectations are not met, that's when, disappointment happens, whether it's from the coach, what's expected of you, anything from a result standpoint to, how to communicate, like how often am I going to be checking in with you? Like, can I text you at midnight and ask for stuff? Like, laying those expectations, people will kind of meet you where those expectations are. And then from a result standpoint, I have a 12-week minimum of people working with me. I used to kind of have a little bit shorter, if you 4 weeks or whatever. I'm like, no, 12. You must start with 12 weeks because I cannot do anything for you in 4 to 8 weeks. Like I can't make any lasting changes. I can make some changes, but it takes at least 66 days to build a habit and to really continue that transformation. Like I need at least 12 weeks with you.
And no midnight calls.
I mean, listen, you can call me. You can call me at midnight, but my shit's on do not disturb. I'm not answering. I go to bed at 8 p.m. now. Like that shit. My clients all the time. I wake up with like 40 text messages. I'm like, well, this is all gonna wait till like 9:30 when I start work.
It's super important. It's super important that as a coach, because I feel like especially when you're starting or a coach is like hungry, they take whatever they can or they answer whenever they can. I was like,
you have to set boundaries.
Worst thing you can do. Worst thing you can do.
Well, you want your clients to set boundaries, right?
100%.
And if you're not setting boundaries, right, as a coach, how do you expect them to follow your lead?
And that all goes into scheduling too, because that also reflects and shows them how their schedule is and why they feel so anxious all the time. Well, because they're not respecting their schedule, right? Their own schedule. So they're probably doing the same, so they expect you to do the same, right? But when you start respecting your schedule and things start falling in place.
I like what you said about the timeline thing too, Nikki. Like really setting this level of expectation for them. Like, you said you start with a 12-week minimum. I start with 6 weeks, or if you want to join my 12-week program, perfect. But I'm going to let you know, like if you're only doing my 6-week workout program, like you're going to feel a lot better. You might start to see some result, like some body composition changes towards the end of it, but you're going to need to do something else afterwards, right? Like you're going to have to follow that up more than the people who are, really solidifying those habits and those healthy behaviors throughout my 12-week program, but as long as you can be like, listen, I give you some mobility workout. Like for me, I give people, daily mobility videos that they can do, or that they really are required to do, matter of fact. And it's like within a week, you'll feel a lot better just from those, right? Like all that stiffness is going to go away. Within 2 weeks, you're going to be drinking a lot more water. So your digestion's going to be a lot better, so as long as I can like show them the ways that they're going to be able to feel and see improvement that maybe not show up on the scale, necessarily, or maybe not like with how their clothes are fitting right away, I think allows people to really have a better understanding of like what a true process looks like of getting healthier.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned, it's a process. So one of the, my main like pillars or main things that I stand for is I'm against any like no quick fixes, no fad diets. That's why I'm like no restrictive diets. I've tried them all. They don't work. So don't do it. As I know, many of the women that come to me have tried many things. They try to go on 7-day juice cleanse to get ready for spring break,
the
or
15?
the 50. I'm gonna be on the lemonade diet. Like I could randomly.
Wait, a lemonade? I've never heard of that one. There's a lemonade diet?
Oh, this is way back.
Really?
10 years ago. This is
wow.
Like back you literally just drink lemonade for 3 days.
That's gonna be one of Josh's new posts.
Yeah, I know, right?
The lemonade diet is like lemonade and cayenne pepper.
I'm more of a unsweet iced tea guy. I'm not a big lemonade guy. Too tart.
The iced tea diet. But I tell people, in order to build lasting habits, I love how you said, week 1, you do a little more mobility. Week 2, let's work on your water. And I do the similar, building these habits. So, week 1, they're like, how do I do my macros? I'm like, you're going to chew slower. We're gonna choose slower. We're gonna clean out your kitchen. Like, we're gonna start step by step. So a lot of people, I'm like, I'm not gonna throw all this on you at once, because we're really teaching you how to build, a lifestyle. My brand is Life with Nikki. It stands for, live your fitness every day. So it's, an everyday routine. It's not just a diet. It's not just, a workout program. It's a way of life. It's a way of living. So that's really what I preach. And that's my goal, to really ultimately, whether someone stays with me, my clients do tend to stay with me for a long time, or whether they, go off on their own and they're being independent, like, good for them. Like, my goal is to teach them and empower them with things that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. And that's also where I show that value. Like, I'm like, it's not just like a PDF. It's not just, you're getting, workout classes. Like, you are getting tools that's going to extend your life by, 10 to 15 years. So that's another way to really show that value as well in taking it slow.
100%. And it's all about the longevity of the game, right? I think obviously being in Miami, it's easy for people to get caught up in the short-term success. I want the short-term results.
I had someone tell me the other day, I'm just going to, on Instagram, I was like, well, how are you planning on losing weight? Well, I'm just going to go get lipo. I'm like, you really think that's going to be the way that you should do that? Like, come on.
But it's true, short-term results, because they want the quick fix. They want the quick look, right? And they might get something, but guess what? In the long run,
comes back around.
It's gonna screw you up,
and usually worse.
Usually worse, right? And usually there's a huge rebound effect. So, and it'll mentally hurt you really bad too, which is probably the worst of the worst, because to get you back going is like the hardest part. So, 100%. The longevity of the game is what's gonna be the most successful part of that journey, and understanding that when you get there at a certain age and you saw all the work you put in from the beginning, you're going to feel good. You're always going to look back and be like, I'm glad I did this way, because look at the way I'm living my life now, 15, 20 years, like you said, down the road, experiencing the things I've wanted to experience, whether it's, play with my kids or still look good in a bathing suit, whatever it is, but you did it the right way.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me into another point too, is a lot of people almost want like too much structure or too much hand holding. They'll be like, I've gotten asked so many times, like, can you just make a meal plan for me and tell me what to eat? I'm like,
pick it out of my mouth.
I'm like, I'm very capable of doing that, but that's not going to help you.
Right.
I was like, first of all, I don't know what you like to eat. I'm like, I know what I like to eat. But secondly, I was like, that's not really going to help you in the long run, because you're going to do that meal plan for a couple weeks. You're going to get sick of it. And then you're just going to, fall back to your old ways. So I really, use the coaching side as that to build value into as a teaching tool. So one of the things I started doing recently, my program is a little bit fluid in the sense, like I said, I'm always asking for feedback. So I am very reactive to what my clients are telling me. So, restaurants just opened. My clients haven't eaten at a restaurant. I mean, Miami, we're pretty lucky. We've been pretty open, but like up north, like I've had clients that we haven't been to a restaurant in like over a year. Like they're like, can we go out to dinner like while you're on your program? I'm like, well, are you gonna go to dinner?
No, stay locked in your house.
Don't go.
Like,
stay locked in.
All right. So what's Nikki's favorite restaurant?
Oh, my favorite restaurant.
Not Prime 112 anymore.
No, it's Carbona.
Yeah.
Carbone.
Well, Carbone's right there too. You're not going there.
Ooh, that's tough. I don't know. I love anywhere with a good view. So
Is it Salt Bay's restaurant? Salt Bay's restaurant.
Salt Bay. I like Area 31. I do like all the primes though, so I'm a little sad about that. No, I did. Yeah. No, I like anywhere with some good seafood. Maybe Sea Spice. One of my clients owns Sea Spice. So how about I say that?
Oh, nice. Garcia's. You got to go to the local spot, Garcia's.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
But what I've done is throughout these couple weeks, I'm like, all right, guys, send me, and makes it really personal too, because I have clients all over, send me 2 of your favorite restaurants, like wherever you go the most frequently that, you're going to go once a month or whenever. And I do a Zoom video, I do a Loom video, just like this, where I go through the menu. I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking at this menu, let's look at the salads. Like, okay, well, this one has like ranch dressing all over it. And this one's, some arugula with some like lighter vinaigrette, like, choose this, add some protein to it. So I go through line item by line item and say, this is what I think about this, almost like green, yellow, and red lighting some foods. I'm like, all right, like try not to get the fried calamari unless like, I don't know, you hit your goal weight and it's your birthday, but
Nikki, I had 4 drinks.
Oh, yes, another one. We talk about alcohol as well. So with that one is such a tricky one. But so with the menu, vet that for them, send it back to them. They feel like now they have the tools. I'm not saying, order a salmon, get a side salad, and do this. I'm like, that's what I recommend, but here are your options, and you decide. And I also tell them to, go in with the mindset of knowing, like, are you aiming to be super good, or is this your treat meal, for the next 2 weeks? Like, go in with the mindset already having decided like how you're going to approach that meal, so you don't get that remorse, you don't spike that cortisol. Like, if you do make that decision, make it a conscious one. And in terms of the drinking, this is something that, especially in Miami, comes up a lot with a lot of social events and things. I always tell them, I remind them of their goals, I remind them of the balance. If they're going to drink, got to meet them where they're at as well. So I do want them to stay honest with me and stay open, because if they're, hiding things, I can't help them. So I'm, mix in a water, go for something that's no sugar. Don't go for the signature cocktails. Get like a tequila with a soda water, have one or two, and then, offset it with, XYZ, protocol. So also teaching people that, yes, you can still, have your vices and have your socialization, but reminding them of what's at cost and what's more important to them at time, and I leave them to decide.
So that's the only time we throw the lemonade diet in there, when they're choosing the alcohol.
Bombay, yo, I'm telling you what, Bombay Sapphire and lemonade is actually pretty fire. It's actually pretty fire. Anytime a rapper starts singing about a drink, I know I'm gonna be drinking that because it's probably fire. But I would really say, throughout this whole conversation, Nikki, like, the overarching theme that I'm really hearing here from you that I truly believe is like what's allowed your clients to have so much success in your program, right, is the autonomy that you're giving them, right? Like you said, you're giving them recommendations. Like, listen, these are the things that I would eat, and these are the principles why I would eat those things, right? But you can do what you want.
100%.
You know what I mean? You can feel free to veer off. Just understand what those trade-offs are, right? And when you really, like, put it in their face like that, like, listen, if you want to drink 12 beers, like, you can drink 12 beers, but just understand, like, that's another 4,000 calories you're putting in your body.
But you're still leaving it up for them to choose.
Right.
And you're not making them feel forced, right? You don't scare them off, because I think that's another thing that a lot of coaches do. They scare off their clients, and they hide everything from them. And that's what you're not doing. They can openly come to you like, hey, look, I did mess up, or like,
no alcohol, no brownies.
Like, I am going to go over here and eat. Like, what's the best? That's amazing. That's amazing. Because regardless, like he says all the time, we say, like, our clients are still, like, especially high-end clients, they're going to still go to events. They're going to still go out.
I want to go to events. I want to go out. Like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, no, sorry. I'm like, I brought my boiled chicken and my broccoli and my rice to the restaurant. Like, no, we all know we know those people, right? Like, they're like, oh, well, I came to the barbecue. Yeah, I came to the barbecue, but I brought my own. Like, no, I'm gonna have a cheeseburger every now and then. I fucking love Five Guys, But
exactly.
But I really think like that. That's what really separates yourself apart, and what makes yourself such a great coach, Nikki.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're doing
thank
a great
you.
job.
I have a quick story on that. Actually, one of my clients, her coach fired her. He fired her because so she was actually formerly a competitive CrossFit athlete and had done some bodybuilding. So she's like, all right, like, she was in her 40s and, just like really having some changes, just couldn't quite, figure it out. So she went to a bodybuilding coach. Nothing wrong with that. They're great at what they do, great at changing that physique. I have so much respect and admiration for it, but she was following everything to a T, following the macros. She had done it for years. And he was like, well, obviously you're not getting results. You must be cheating. You must be lying to me. And he fired her.
Wow.
And she was devastated because she was trying so hard. So she starts working with me, and, I'm very trustworthy. That's like, you guys, well, Josh knows me, like my personality. I'm very friendly, like very approachable. So I was like,
that's the pepper.
Way more than me.
That's the pepper.
It's way more approachable than I am.
So she tells me this, and I was like, okay, well, let's figure this out. We're working together, like nothing's happening. I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, all right, well, this is out of my like scope practice. So I referred her. I have also like a referral network. So I know when something's outside of my scope. I referred her, you know, to a nurse practitioner who has like a wellness practice. She got some blood work done. Turns out she had some terrible like hormone issues, and it had nothing to do with the way she was eating. Her hormones were so out of whack that no matter no matter what she was doing, it wasn't going to work. So she got her hormones fixed. She had, you know, medical issues, and now she's doing great. So it just goes to show, you know, you just got to take a little time, have that coach that you can really tell those things to, and not feel like you're going to get fired
and be patient,
or get yelled at. Yeah, be patient and work with them and try to figure it out. And she was able to be so open and honest with me. And I knew her for so long that I was like, I know she's following everything to a T. That's just how she does it. So let me, you know, figure it out. So that's what we did. So it just shows, you know, being human and, you know, connecting with people.
Man, I think that's the perfect way to wrap this up. Nikki, how can people reach out to you? Where can they find you online, and how can they get a hold of you so they can, you know, start your program?
Yes, amazing. So they can find me on Instagram at Salt and Pepper, the original. I'll spell it out because it's hard to spell. Salt.and.pepper, Peppah. Send me a DM on Instagram. That's usually the fastest way to reach me. I do have my next rendition of the program will be coming out in July for, you know, third quarter of the year. So definitely, if anyone's getting ready to gear up, it's going to be all things workouts, nutrition, and recently, as a little close, I've come into a lot of energetic work and a lot of mindset stuff. So I'll be incorporating some holy fire Reiki, some meditations into there as something that a lot of my clients, you know, being in that high stress industry, it's really helped me with the, you know, sort of healing tactics and the mindset work. So that's the third pillar that I'll be adding into this next rendition of the program. And I'm so excited to share it with the world and really heal people, you know, from the inside out. So definitely excited to work with people. And thanks so much for having me on the show. This is a blast. I love chatting.
And for all those boss babes out there, you already know where to go get yourself.
Absolutely.
Hit up Nikki. Let's fucking go.
Boss coach.
Let's go. Let's do it.
No, Nikki,
Here to help.
Really appreciate you coming on here and, you know, taking your time and, you know, dropped into this valley and showing us the way you coach. And it's always amazing. And, you know, like Josh and I say, to know there's other coaches like yourself out there doing a great job and, you know, being able to hold their clients accountable in the right way. So like the way we like to finish on this podcast, we always like to ask at least one question. What is the biggest piece of advice you can leave off with all our listeners today in one sentence?
One sentence.
No pressure.
I'm going to say, actually it came right to me. I'm going to say going with today's theme is trust the process. You know, it's a journey. It's never ending. And, you know, full trust and stay committed and you'll find your way.
Love
Boom.
it. Love it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Nikki.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate you. Till next time, guys.
Woo! Had the legendary Nikki Pepper on. Man, such a great coach, such a quality coach. If you want to reach out to Nikki, make sure you check her out at salt.and.pepper, right? Yeah. And check out her program, Life with Nikki, right? One more time, Life with Nikki. Awesome. Phenomenal coach. Known her for a very long time. There's nobody I would trust more if you're a woman trying to make that solid change in your life for long term. Thank you guys again for listening to the podcast. If you're a big fan of it, make sure you drop a rating and a review anywhere you listen to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We love you guys. Until next time.